What's a little bit funny is that I already made this video. I already have an MSW application tips video on my channel, but it was one of the very first videos that I made and it is painful to get through. I did not know how to edit. Honestly, I don't look good. I think now all of the schools I said I was applying to, I didn't actually end up going to any of them. So I just figured I would make a 2.0, a little updated version. You do not have to go watch the first one. Like I said, painful to get through. But whether you're here just because you're thinking about getting an MSW or because you know you are and you're just starting the application process, I am so glad that you're here. A little context on me. I'm starting my MSW in like 10 days, I think. So I've already done the whole application process, done with that, obviously got accepted to a program. I'll tell you all about that at the end, what my actual plan is, what I'm doing if you don't know yet. But whenever I was going through the application process, I felt like there was limited resources to help me, limited experiences for me to learn from. And so I just want to give my experience out into the world, hoping that it lands somewhere to help somebody as they are going through the process of getting their MSW. I think it is important to start by mentioning the different types of MSW options that you can have. So MSW is a Master's of Social Work, and you can get a Master's of Social Work no matter how old you are, how long you've been working, how little you've been working, no matter what your bachelor's was in. You do need a bachelor's to apply to the Master's of Social Work programs, but it does not matter what your bachelor's is in. If you did get a Bachelor's of Social Work, which is what I did, then you're applying advanced standing is what it's called to MSW programs. All that means is that it is 1 year instead of 2 for the grad school program, because your senior year classes cover the first year of the traditional 2-year MSW programs. So if you got your bachelor's in anything other than social work, then you have 2 years. Usually the first one is kind of called like the generalist year, and the next one is like the specialist year. Each school might have different words for that, but it's basically just like the overview of social work first year, and then you can really hone in during your second year. So advanced standing means you have a Bachelor of Social Work. 2-year programs means you have a bachelor's in anything else. Next, you can decide if you want to do online or in person for an MSW. What is cool about social work is that you have a field placement that you'll be required to do, which is just like an internship that gives you experience on the job. And many schools offer online class options for their MSW, but most of the ones that offer online class options, you can still choose to do an in-person internship close to where you are. So you can just decide what's best for you, if you want to do classes online, if you want to do classes in person on a campus. After COVID, I know a lot of internships have remote opportunities too. I think you get maybe more experience doing an in-person internship, but there are remote online options for classes for internships. So you just have to know yourself, know what you're looking for, how you learn best, and you can do online or in person. Next, you need to know if you are looking at doing full-time or part-time. So full-time is just what it sounds like. You're a full-time student, you do your internship, you take a certain number of classes, whatever your school deems as full-time. And then part-time might be better if you are already working a job, or if you're going to start working a job, or if you have something else that you're doing. Maybe you're a parent, maybe you're a caretaker, you just have some sort of other responsibility where you're not being a full-time student. Now again, this varies school to school, but usually part-time options take double the length of time to complete as the full-time option would, but you just have to know what you're looking for, what you're wanting. Whenever I first made this video, I stated crystal clear that I was advanced standing in person and full-time, and I am actually, what I'm starting in 10 days is advanced standing online and full-time. So what do you need to look at whenever you are actually finding which schools you want to apply to? You want to make sure that you're getting an MSW. I know sometimes they have like Masters of Social Services or something that's just different, but if you want your Masters of Social Work, then make sure it's a Masters of Social Work program. They'd be accredited by the Council of Social Work Education, so you'd see like on their website somewhere it'd say like CSWE accredited. You want that. You do want that, especially if you're looking to get licensed, which you most likely will be. I don't have a video about that yet, but I will soon, so subscribe. But number one is probably location for your school. Now, if you're doing online, it doesn't matter where your school is. It really doesn't matter because you're doing it online. You can be anywhere. But if you're doing it in person, then you can look to see if there are schools that offer MSWs in your area. You can look to see if there's schools that offer MSWs in a place that you want to move. I do think it'll be beneficial if you want to work with a certain population of some sort to make sure that there is that population where you're completing your MSW, just because then you have the opportunity to maybe work with them for an internship, or you can just get more specialized knowledge. If you really wanted to work like in an inner city location, but you're getting your MSW in rural Kansas, like it's very different. So just think about location, think about what makes sense for you whenever you are picking which schools to apply to. Another thing that's important to look at is that each school offers some sort of like specialization, concentration, maybe some certificate, and that super varies school by school, but you just want to be familiar with it with the schools that you're applying to. So like specialization or concentration, for instance, at the University of Alabama, you could specialize in children's, adolescents, and families, or adults and families. Like you could pick which one you thought you were more likely wanting to work with, and then you could just take classes that are more more geared towards that. So to put it in like undergrad terms, like your specialization is kind of like your minor, like your focus, like your overarching classes are still the Masters of Social Work classes, but like what's like a secondary thing you're focusing in on, and that's like the specialization concentration. So it might be population, like I mentioned, like children, adolescent and family, or adults and their families, or it could even be micro social work versus macro social work. So micro is working like one-on-one with people. That's personally what I want to do. So I made sure that the schools that I was applying to offered classes that could cater towards what I wanted to get out of the program and what I wanted to learn to be successful at my future career. Another important thing to look at is price and finance options. In my first video that I made of this, I said this price that you see is not the price that you'll pay because there's so many finance options, and that is true, but I have found that at the grad school level, this is not universal, this is my experience, at the grad school level, most financial aid comes in the form of loans. So there's a chance that you might get like a merit scholarship. You can look if they have assistantships where you work on campus and can get some money to pay for your tuition, but just be wary of tuition. Know what it's going to be. If you're going to a public school, look in-state. Those would be a little bit cheaper. If you're going to a private school, it really doesn't matter. What is nice about the Masters of Social Work is that it is only a 1 or 2 year program. You're not signing up for like another 4 years of undergrad or something, but they can be kind of pricey. So just look and know what your loan options are. See if there's any grants. Sometimes in some sectors, you just have to look at this because it varies, but you can sometimes get a grant to cover your tuition and then you promise to work like for that sector after you graduate. So I know like child welfare, there's a lot of like grants available where they'll pay a certain number thousand to your schooling and then you just have to work for like 2 or so years for them after you graduate. Just like full disclosure, I ended up picking the option that I picked mostly because of finances. Like there was other schools that I thought would be really cool to go to and I would love to go to, but it just was not going to happen. And whenever I talk about the school that I am going to, I'll kind of mention those more in detail, but just be aware of the finances as you're applying to schools, because if you only apply to schools that cost like $60,000 or more and you cannot afford that, then it's gonna be a bummer whenever you have to pay $60,000 in tuition. Next, let's move on to what you need for an application. Again, this is so school specific, so make sure to look at the schools you're applying to see exactly what they need, but some overarching things that you can just know that you need to have ready is that you need a transcript to apply to the schools. They need to know what classes you took in your undergrad, what degree you got. I found that during the application process, most schools are very okay with unofficial transcripts. Like you can just like send them a screenshot off your school's website, but then once you actually get admitted, they'll want you to send them an official transcript. So they, you know, the school verifies that you really took the classes you said you took. What I did, I know this like varies undergrad institution to undergrad institution, but I just sent an unofficial transcript to myself. So I just received it in an email as a PDF and then just attached that to applications. You don't have to send the unofficial transcript to the schools you're applying to, but once you get to the official transcript, if wherever you get admitted, then you will need like your school to send it directly to that school. Another thing to have on hand is a resume. Redo your resume, vamp it up, make it look good for social work. It's important to include any relevant academics. Maybe you got like, you know, your major, your minor, whatever was relevant to social work somehow, or just whatever you got. Make sure to include your academics. Make sure to include any like field experience you have. If you got your Bachelor of Social Work, your field placement, make sure that's on your resume, or just any jobs or volunteering that you've done in your life. Volunteering is good to include because obviously the heart of social work is like serving others, you know, doing good for the community, and volunteering is also that. So you want to show that you are passionate about helping, show your volunteer experience. With jobs, it does not have to be social work related for you to include it on this resume. You can still make it be relevant. Even if you're a cashier at a grocery store, which I was for like 4 years, make your job description on your resume to be your interactions with people or just something like that where you can connect any job you did to the like people you're serving, even if it's not a like social service job. You can make your resume super catered towards social work. Include the populations that you've worked with, include the skills you've learned, even if that skill is just like building rapport, like getting someone to trust you. Like that's a skill that's important for social work, so you can include that. Have someone else look at your resume. If you have other people in your life that are also social workers or social work minded, have them look at your resume just to get some other eyes on it, make sure there's no flaws, because really like your resume, you want to be as perfect as you can be. Like you can almost never have a finished resume. Like you could always make some change to make it better. So just send it around to some people, see if they have any notes for you, see how it comes across to a new eye. Your resume is very important, and every single school, I'm pretty sure, will require your resume. Something else you need to have on hand and just be aware of is application fees. Now, I would say that the ones that I applied to probably averaged 50 to 75. There was a couple hundreds in there. So it can add up really to apply to different schools. Something that I did learn though is that it is kind of easy to get an application fee waived. Not always, but you can always just reach out to the financial aid office. I did this for one of the schools that I applied to and just said, can I have an application fee waiver? And they responded and said yes, and added added it to my account. Or for another school, they waived the application fee if you attended an information session, which I'll talk more about information sessions later in the video. But there's just ways that you can get your application fee waived, and so look for those ways, have no shame. That's expensive, but just be aware that that's a cost that could come up as you're applying. Another thing you'll need for your application are letters of reference. I feel like the applications that I saw ranged between 2 and 3 letters that they needed. Who can give you letters of reference? Professors, employers, supervisors, someone who knows you at an academic, at a professional, your work ethic, your personality, your passion, someone who knows that about you. Make sure to give them advanced notice so they have time to write a good letter for you, because really they are doing you a huge favor. Letters of reference really can go a long way and you'll need, like I said, 2 to 3 of them usually for the schools that you're applying to. Next, you're gonna need to write personal statements and essays, and this very much varies school to school, so make sure you see exactly what your school requires, the prompt that it requires, but most likely you're gonna need to take time to reflect on why you want to get an MSW. Maybe is there an experience or a memory in your life that has made you want to get an MSW, why you are a good fit to get an MSW. Just kind of know yourself and you'll be able to write the essay much easier. It'll be really good to have an understanding of the NASW Code of Ethics, which I have not done a video on, but I will in the future. So like I said, subscribe for more. But a lot of the essay prompts I found did relate back to the Code of Ethics, and that's just kind of the like governing document, I feel like, for social workers. And so they want to know that you know it, or you at least know what it is, and you know what social workers ethically should and should not do. It'll be helpful to know specifics about the school that you're writing the personal essay for, know what they take pride in, know what makes them different from other schools, so that you can mention that in your essay and talk about how like that's the perfect fit for a program for you, and not only how they're perfect for you, but also just hype yourself up, find out how you're perfect for them, and write about it. Do not stress that much about coming off like cocky or just talking about yourself too much when you write your personal essay. I know that was kind of hard for me to write and be like, I did this and I do this well, but like that's what they need. They need to be convinced that you need to be in their program, that they need you. So like, for example, like I said, these will vary school to school, but just so you have a thought, an idea of the personal essays that you might be required to write. One of mine had prompts that was your motivation for social work and social work education. Another one, evidence of experience or interest in working with diverse or oppressed group, address commitment to social and economic justice, your potential to become a competent social worker, your potential and plan for academic success, the resources you will use to support you academically, and 2 experiences that you have had that are relevant to individual differences and or diversity in relation to the NASW Code of Ethics. So as you can tell, don't save those for last minute. The personal statements are, I keep saying like everything is the most important, but personal statements are super important. That's how you're introducing yourself to them. So give it time, think hard, write it well, have someone edit your essays. If you have someone else that's a social worker in your life, have them edit your essay, because they know the language, they know the culture a little bit more than someone who is not in social work. But you can just have anyone edit. Make sure your personal statements are as great, perfect as you can get them to be, and try not to make yourself rush them. Now I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but information sessions, I think it's just another tip I have, is to go to information sessions that schools are offering. Number 1, because you might get an application fee waiver. I didn't know I was going to. I did, because I went to the information session. That was great. But number 2, you just get a personality and can get a look and can ask questions from people who go to the school or work at the school. For instance, I'm not going to name names, I'm not here to slander, but there was one school that I was thinking about applying to. I went to an information session. It was super disorganized. The people who were leading it weren't friendly. Like, just I went to the information session, was like, I'm not going to that school. Like, that just does not seem like a good fit for me. Whereas other ones, I went to the information session, the people were friendly, they answered questions, I had questions, they gave lots of information, and it's just a good way to get a picture into the school, into knowing if you really do want to go there or not. Go to the information sessions. Now, the little fun part, where I applied and then where I'm going. Like I said, this changed so much from my first video. So where I applied, the University of Alabama. I got my bachelor's from there. I knew the social work school, I knew the professors. It just was like, it made sense for me to apply there just in case. But University of Alabama. I applied to Columbia University. I applied to University of Denver. I applied to University of Georgia, and I applied to Fordham University. Now, why I didn't pick the ones that I didn't pick. The University of Alabama, I felt like I just knew the school. I kind of had gotten what it could give me, if that makes sense. Nothing against them. It was a great school of social work. It is a great school of social work, but I just wanted to be somewhere different, to experience something new, to meet new people, etc. So did not go to University of Alabama. Columbia University was going to cost me $70,000 to go to, and that was with a $20,000 scholarship. So did not go to Columbia University. Oh, and on top of that, living in New York City. Very cool, also very expensive. Not going to Columbia. University of Denver was going to cost me $45,000 to go to, but don't worry, they gave me a $15,000 scholarship. It was a originally going to be $60,000. Again, great school, would have been awesome to go to it, but I couldn't justify it to myself. University of Georgia, I'm not going to because they rejected me. I did not get into the University of Georgia, which again, they're a great school. I think it would have been amazing to go there. I am not sure why I didn't get in. I committed to them for my undergrad and then ended up not going there. So there's a chance that they blacklist people for that. I don't know. That's alleged. That's just a claim I'm making. That might be why I got rejected. There's also a chance that there was a mix up with my recommendation letters in the system, because I remember that there was a mix up. So there's a chance that like they required 3 letters and really only 2 went through. I don't know, but I got we regret to inform you email, which is fine. So where I am going though is Fordham University, which is based in New York City. However, I am doing their online program. And so for me, what that means, I will be taking 2 classes at a time. They have terms, so there are 2 terms per semester. So classes are 8 weeks long. So I'll be taking 2 classes for 8 weeks, 2 classes for 8 weeks this semester, and then next semester we'll be doing the exact same thing. They have 4 different domains of classes that you are required to take at least 1 class in. So they have individuals and families, they have communities and like organizations, they have evaluation and research, and they have policy. So you have to take 1 class in each of these 4, and then you also have to take advanced clinical assessment and diagnosis. And then after you get all of those done, you have 3 more spaces for classes, and you can pick what you want those 3 to be. So for me, for example, I'm most interested in individuals and families. So my guess is after I get all of these done, I will do more individuals and families classes. Like that's just up to you, whatever you want to unofficially specialize in. With Fordham University, I live in Atlanta, which is not New York City, but they found me a field placement in my area. And so I'll be doing an in-person field placement at a residential youth detention center in Atlanta. Their classes are set up where you meet weekly online, but you do the work before going to the class. So for example, my first day of classes is August 31st. So by August 31st, I need to have all of module 1's like readings, activities, videos, all of that done, and then we'll discuss it in class. Obviously I haven't started yet, so I can't give like a this is great review yet, but it seems like it was the perfect fit for me. I am glad that I get to be where I am. I'm excited to start my MSW classes, and like I said, I hope this video is helpful to you in any which way. Like I said in the beginning, my name is Anna. I would love if you choose to subscribe and stick around with me as I go through my MSW journey. Mwah! I love you guys. I'll see you next time.